For years, the idea of Canada building Swedish fighter jets on its own soil sounded almost implausible. Most people assumed the country's role in modern fighter aviation had already been decided. The future of Canada's air power, according to that assumption, would come assembled elsewhere, delivered through established supply chains, and maintained within a tightly integrated alliance structure dominated by larger defense industries. In that narrative, Canada was a buyer, not a builder, but the quiet announcement of a $400 million Gripen production facility has begun to challenge that assumption, not because of the size of the investment alone. In the world of fighter aircraft manufacturing, $400 million is modest compared to the multi-billion-dollar ecosystem surrounding larger programs. What makes the project unusual is its timing, and more importantly, its strategic meaning. Because when a country begins constructing a fighter production facility inside its own borders, it is rarely just about jobs. It is about control. To understand why this moment matters, it helps to look at the broader context surrounding Canada's fighter modernization debate. For more than a decade, Ottawa has faced a difficult balancing act. The aging fleet of CF-18 Hornets, originally introduced in the early 1980s, has steadily approached the limits of its operational life. Structural fatigue, maintenance complexity, and evolving threat environments have all pushed the aircraft toward retirement. Replacing them, however, proved politically complicated. Canada is deeply integrated into the North American aerospace defense architecture. Through NORAD, its fighters are not just national assets. They are part of a continental shield. That integration has long made American aircraft the default choice. Platforms like the F-35 were often viewed as inevitable. At the same time, however, another aircraft remained quietly present in the background of the discussion: the Swedish-built Gripen. Developed by Saab with a very different design philosophy, the Gripen was never intended to compete purely on prestige or scale. Instead, it was designed around a more pragmatic doctrine: high availability, lower operating costs, and the ability to operate from dispersed bases under difficult conditions. It was in many ways a fighter built for countries that value independence as much as raw capability. But for years, the aircraft struggled to gain traction in Canada's political environment. The debate often focused on interoperability, alliance expectations, and the advantages of joining larger multinational programs. In comparison, the Gripen was sometimes dismissed as the outsider. That perception began to shift during a series of multinational exercises over the past decade. One such exercise, conducted across Northern Europe's demanding airspace, brought together aircraft from several NATO and partner nations. Advanced fighters from multiple countries participated in simulated combat missions designed to test both pilots and platforms. Expectations were clear. More expensive fifth-generation aircraft were expected to dominate the exercises, relying on advanced sensors and stealth technology to control the battlespace. Yet observers noticed something unexpected. The Gripen units performed with remarkable consistency, not because they overwhelmed their opponents with raw technological superiority, but because their operational philosophy was fundamentally different. Swedish doctrine emphasizes dispersed operations. Instead of relying on large centralized air bases, Gripen units are trained to operate from highways, temporary runways, and improvised facilities. Maintenance crews are designed to work with minimal equipment, allowing aircraft to be turned around quickly between sorties. In practical terms, this means more aircraft in the air, more often. During exercises, that advantage becomes noticeable. While some advanced fighters require complex maintenance cycles, Gripen units have repeatedly demonstrated rapid turnaround times. Ground crews can refuel and rearm the aircraft in minutes, enabling a high sortie rate even in austere environments. For countries with vast territories and limited basing infrastructure, that characteristic carries significant weight. Canada, after all, operates across one of the largest airspaces on Earth. Patrolling the Arctic alone presents logistical challenges that few air forces face on a regular basis. In that environment, endurance and availability often matter more than raw performance statistics. This is where the conversation surrounding the new production facility begins to take shape. Because manufacturing a fighter domestically changes the relationship between a country and its aircraft. It means spare parts can be produced locally, upgrades can be integrated without waiting for distant supply chains. Maintenance expertise remains inside the country. In other words, the aircraft becomes part of the national industrial base rather than a fully imported capability. Supporters of the project argue that this is precisely what Canada's aerospace sector needs. The country already possesses a highly skilled workforce in advanced manufacturing, avionics, and composite materials. Companies across Ontario and Quebec have long contributed components to global aerospace programs. But participation in foreign supply chains is not the same as controlling the final product. A domestic Gripen facility would shift that balance. The immediate economic impact is clear. Hundreds of high-skilled jobs, new engineering programs, and long-term maintenance contracts that could last decades. Yet, the deeper implication lies in sovereignty. When a nation builds its own fighters, even under partnership agreements, it gains a degree of strategic flexibility that pure import models rarely provide. Operational decisions become less constrained by external supply limitations. Upgrades can be tailored to national requirements. And in times of geopolitical tension, domestic production lines offer resilience that overseas supply chains cannot always guarantee. These considerations are not theoretical. Over the past decade, global defense supply networks have faced repeated disruptions, from pandemic-era shutdowns to geopolitical trade restrictions. Suddenly, the idea of localized production no longer appears inefficient. It appears prudent. Cost also plays a role in the conversation. Multiple defense studies have noted that the Gripen's operating costs are significantly lower than many competing fighters. Exact figures vary depending on configuration and mission profile, but estimates often place hourly operating costs well below those of heavier multi-role platforms. For air forces tasked with constant patrols over enormous territories, those differences accumulate quickly. Lower operating costs can translate into more training hours, higher readiness rates, and longer service life for the fleet. In other words, sustainability, not just acquisition. And this is where the debate becomes sensitive, because fighter procurement decisions rarely exist in isolation. They are tied to alliances, defense partnerships, and political relationships. Canada's closest military partner remains the United States. Any deviation from established procurement patterns inevitably raises questions about interoperability and strategic alignment. Over the years, several countries considering non-American fighters have reported experiencing subtle diplomatic pressure. Not overt demands, but reminders. Reminders about intelligence sharing agreements, about joint operations, about the benefits of maintaining standardized equipment within alliance structures. These pressures are rarely public, but they exist. Inside Canada, the discussion has reflected these competing perspectives. Some policymakers emphasize the importance of maintaining seamless integration with American and NATO forces. Others argue that true alliance strength includes the ability to contribute independently developed capabilities. Both positions carry weight, and neither can be dismissed lightly, which is why the construction of a domestic Gripen facility has attracted such attention. Because it represents more than a factory. It represents a choice, not necessarily a final one, but a meaningful shift in direction. If the project proceeds as planned, Canada would join a small group of nations capable of producing advanced fighter aircraft within their own borders. That capability brings opportunities, but also responsibility. A domestic production line requires long-term commitment, continuous upgrades, and sustained investment in engineering expertise. Once established, it becomes part of the national defense ecosystem. And ecosystems, once built, are rarely dismantled easily. So the question now facing Canada is not simply which aircraft it will fly in the coming decades. It is something larger, what kind of aerospace power it intends to be. Because assumptions in defense policy tend to persist for decades, until quietly they are broken. And once they are broken, they cannot easily be restored.